Hello friends, in this little video we're going to give you an introduction to climbing with spurs and roping limbs down using a Portawrap. So first I will talk a little bit about the equipment involved. These are our spurs here. There are different kinds. This is old school here with leather pads. These we used to call uke pads. The first spurs that came out had just a narrow strap here, and they were kind of a pain. The shank tend to dig into your legs. So these uke pads were a great improvement. And then these aluminum pads are another improvement with a little padded inside, makes it a lot more comfortable. Then there are two kinds of gaffs depending on the length. And they call tree gaffs and pole gaffs. So these are traditionally used in pole climbing for utility workers and stuff. So this is a tree gaff. If it's a little bit shorter, it'd be a pole gaff. Most tree guys obviously use tree gaffs, but you could use pole gaffs, and sometimes it's better. It depends what you're climbing. But if you're climbing trees with thick bark and soft bark, you definitely want the tree spikes. And here's a Cadillac set here. This is super light, aluminum, fiberglass, very light. You barely notice you have them on. And the reason I got these was because I got a job where I had to access eagle nest, and I had to hike back into the forest with all my gear. So it wasn't as much as the weight of wearing these, but the weight carrying in. I wanted something light, and I appreciate it. These are very comfortable. Then when you climb with spurs, you don't want to wear boots like this. You want a heel, so you want to, like old school boots like this, have a good heel so that the shank will sit in place and not move around. Then you use a flip line, which is attached to your D-rings on your saddle. And here's an example of this. This has a wire core, and it has a little rope grab here, and that's attached with a strap. So when this sits on your saddle, it'll position yourself conveniently. If you put that on with a carabiner, it might be stiff and not want to really be where you want it to be. So this is adjustable. And these are pretty good. And they are meant for flipping. They're stiff, so you can flip them up the tree. You cannot assume that they will protect you from a chainsaw cut. A chainsaw will cut right through them. And I've seen that demonstrated, so that's not. And they last a long time. If they get wet and get a lot of wear, this point here can be a weak point where they're crimped together. You know, if you start seeing any rust and stuff like there you got to put them out of service. But usually the rope part will wear out before that happens. So for roping, we either use a natural crutch or a pulley. So I'll talk a little about arborist pulleys, also known as blocks. So what the advantage of these is that you can open them. So this one, you open it and you can insert a rope there, mid-line. You don't have to thread the rope through. Then you close it and go like this. That snaps in place. It's very convenient. Arborist blocks, they also have these wide plates on the side, so the rope stays in there. You don't want a pulley that's not made for arborist work. It might have very, very small sheaves. It might be sharp, and then the rope would flip over the edge. You want this to stay in there. Here's another one. Same principle, but instead of having this thing that's easy, you have to unscrew it. So it takes a little bit more effort to open it. See, and it has this sheave in there, and then that's how you insert your rope or put the sling on there. So these are attached to the tree with slings, and this is known as a pulley sling, a whoopee sling. This is adjustable, so you can make it shorter, make it maybe longer, and you know, of course, once it's like a Chinese finger trap. Once there's tension on it, it holds. Then you choke it around the trunk like this, and you tighten it up so you can get it pretty tight. So there's not a lot of play here. You usually don't want a piece hanging down like this. And here's another whoopee sling. smaller size, and here is another type, even smaller, just for really lightweight rigging, something to have easy to have in hand. Then there's these straps. Sometimes you can use those. They're not adjustable, so if you use them like this, you can have whatever play you have in there. If you choke them to the tree, you will have a tail end swinging, so that might not be good. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And so these are your basic blocks. Here is a very small block for rigging. This type of block needs to be attached with a steel carabiner, because you have these plates here. If you tie a rope here that's too tight a bend, and the edge can cut into the rope. So you always want the carabiner on these. Then there's the old-fashioned sling. These are used maybe in crane work a lot. You go around the trunk, you choke it. So they're not adjustable, which is a drawback, but they're strong and handy. And then there's a dead-eye sling. Is just a piece of rope with a spliced eye, and this is what I have on my Portawrap, and I will show you how to use the Portawrap in a little bit. This is to attach it to the tree. You can use the same for a pulley. You can use either one for both of those. And that's it for the equipment. We'll go take a look at climbing with Spurs. Okay, safety first. We gotta wear a helmet. The climbing helmet needs to be designed for climbing in the sense that it'll take a side impact, and it has to have a chin strap so it stays on the head. And that is also a good idea for people working on the ground to have that chin strap, because you look up and you move around, you don't want the head to bounce off. And then I like to have these earmuffs for ear protection. Some people like to stick the plugs in the ears. I'm not a fan of that, because in the course of working during the day, you get gas and oil and pine sap on your hands, and every time you take your earplugs out and put it back in, you roll them and put all that stuff in your ears. So that's just me. I like these. These are pretty handy. Okay, so let's see. I gotta set up my climbing system. So this is an old-fashioned butt strap saddle. This is your tying point when you're hanging on the saddle and working the canopy. When you're using Spurs, you use the side D-rings. So I have this little non-locking carabiner. I just clip these together so they don't flop around when I use it like this. And my adjustable flip line. Okay, so climbing with Spurs, you want your legs to be straight and going out at an angle. If they get too close to the trunk, you're going to spur out and slide down. So you take a couple steps and you're spurring good. You flip up the line and you step up again. Flip the line again. That's it, very easy. Especially this size tree. So when you get to a branch, you want to go around it. You're attempting to unclip, pull your flip line around. We don't do that. You stay tied in all the time. So you have your climbing line here, and you tie in either around the trunk or around the branch, tie in wherever you want. So here makes it easy because I have a split tail. It's just one carabiner. The knot is already on there. Tighten up on that, and then I let out some slack. This is just like one hand to squeeze it like this. Make sure this holds. Okay. I can move my flip line up. Clip in again, adjust it, and keep going up. So I would do the same thing here. Now, I want to show you something. Once you get on a big tree and you have to cut it down in section, chunk it down. You might cut pieces like this, throw them down, push them off. When you do that, you're working on your spurs, on your flip line, but you want to stay in with your climbing line also. And you want to be tied in a way that you can come down if something were to happen, you can come down. So I will show you how to do that. I'll undo my split tail system, get that out of the way. I tie a running bowline. There. Then I choke that off on the trunk, and then I attach so I have my climbing line choked off here, and I've attached myself with a rig, which is a lowering device. If I need to come down quickly for whatever reason, I still want to just test it out first, it's holding, and then I lower myself by working this lever, like that. So that feels good. I can take off the slip line, and I can come down like that. So I have an easy way of coming down. I don't have to set up anything, and I have a choked off climbing line that's easy to move up and down as I do the work. So now, put it back up. Okay, so if you're on a big stick, maybe like this, you're chunking off pieces. You know, you don't want to cut one-handed, so you don't want the piece to, as you finish the cut, just come down. You don't want to use your arm to push it up. That's why I carry this tiny little wedge on a string. You're close to finishing the cut, you pound this in the cut, you finish the cut two-handed. Turn off the saw, put it back on your saddle, and you grab the piece, push it off, or throw it off wherever it needs to go. And then you move your setup down, one piece at a time, and that's how that goes. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay, I'll start out. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I've set 2 pulleys, and I want to rope this limb off, and we're going to use a lowering device. So this is obviously way overkill. This is a demonstration of this little tree, but this is to show you how it works. So this is all ready to go. This goes down to the ground, and now Wall will demonstrate how to insert it into the Portawrap.
Okay, this is a Portawrap. It's used on larger limbs than what we have now, but this is in place of, say, wrapping around the trunk, which is why we call it the Portawrap. I'll insert the rope behind the Portawrap, behind this nub. This point here, I'll tighten it up a little bit, and then I'll do one wrap. So you can see you can do more depending upon the size. The more you wrap, the more resistance you have. So you can also have too much resistance, and then you're going to be in trouble. So you have to really get a good feel for what the weight is and how many wraps you need. To tighten this up, I'll use a method called a strum method, because I want to get this as tight as possible. Okay, so you see the wrap is actually being suspended. At this point, I'm going to walk back and make sure that the rope is in front of me all the time. You can see that the nub below has the wrap is on the nub below. That's where your control is. So at this point, I have gloves on. I like them for the grip. Some people like it barehanded. You notice I'm not doing this. I'm not wrapping the rope around my hand. People have lost fingers that way. I'm not putting it around the back of me either, because I don't want to go up with the tree. You always want to be able to let go and get away. So always have an escape plan. If this goes wrong, you know which way you're going to run. Think about that first, because by the time an accident happens, it's too late. Okay?
Okay, so just a comment there. Some people like it barehanded. That's true, but they don't do that working for me. That's the only situation where I want to see gloves. Anything else, it's optional. But when you're roping, you don't want to get in a situation where your rope starts burning your hand. So, here it comes. Come on down. Yeah, so this limb is so light that
It's a light limb.
that
This
it
is what you
did
would
not
do
need a
when
water
you're
at in reality, so that's what happens.
Yeah.
This is
Now-
how it works. So now,
As a ground man, I should say that when that drops, at that point, before it swings and hits the climber, I would have it lowered, because it should hit below the climber. You don't want it, that was not where it's supposed to hit. You want it to hit below the climber. So a good ground person is aware and is in touch with the climber.
now sometimes you might want something to stop and hang. And in this case, it's fine because your pulley is above the load, so you don't get that much of a shock load. But let's say this was a really tight space. Here's a house, here's a fence. Let's say I just rope it off. Then I would rope off half of it to make it small enough to be able to handle and pull away from the fence. And you can do that with a Portawrap. You just snap it off. Anyway, so now
Lower it.
go ahead and lower it. Okay.
I'm taking off a wrap. I'm holding the wrap. I'm going to disengage the Portawrap. You wouldn't do this if it was a larger limb, but this is a small limb, so. So at this point, you want to be able to walk this piece away from the landing site. You don't want it to land
I got the low line.
below, okay?
So that's why with two people, one got the limb, the other has the low line. Well, I can grab them up here. So there you go.
There you go.
That's your tripod.
Leave the butt in the direction you want to drag it.
Climbing down, if you need to climb down with your flip line attached, it's just the reverse. Move your feet down, then you lean forward, take the weight off it and move the flip line down. Move your feet down again. Do it one more time. One more time. And just like that.